Welcome to Lancashire Business Stories, the podcast that does exactly what it says on the tin. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and every week we're joined by local business owners to talk about their journey into business and how they've grown and scaled their own organisations. We'll talk about some of the challenges they've faced along the way and the successes that they've had in growing their businesses, so you, our listeners and viewers, can learn and apply those same principles into your own business, so you can grow and succeed. If this is the first time that you've watched or listened to the podcast, please hit the subscribe or follow button. Hope you enjoy the show. Let's get to it. Ben Griffiths, welcome to Lancashire Business Stories.
Thank you, Paul.
As always, we're going to talk a little bit about the business that you run and own, and we're going to talk a little bit about your background. But let's start with Clever IT. What is it that you do? Who do you do it for? What problems are you solving?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Paul. So Clever IT is an MSP. And nobody knows what that stands for. That's Managed Service Provider. You know what that stands for. There you go. But lots of the time, clients know us more as an IT support provider.
Yeah.
Anyone outside the MSP industry. But the reason it's changed is that we don't just fix things anymore. We proactively monitor clients' estates. So as far as what we do and who we do it for, our smallest client's got one laptop, works from home, a consultant, and our largest client's got over 250 computers and 5 offices. So we can, and what we do for them, that varies depending on the client, as you can imagine. We still do the everyday things. We have a team of people who run in our help desk, level 1 support, level 2, level 3, and a dedicated project team. And those people do anything still from my Outlook's running slow, the computer won't turn on, help, I think I've been hacked, things like that.
That never happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you'd have said to me 25 years ago when I started in IT, would I now be talking more about data security and multi-factor authentication? And unfortunately, proactive things that we've seen, whilst we record this podcast, there will be at least another one of our clients who will have opened an email they shouldn't, or forwarded an email they shouldn't, or put a password in a box that they really shouldn't have. So
honestly, I get at least one email a week from somebody who's got my email address in their address book with somebody who's hacked them, saying XYZ sent you a file attachment, please open this and read carefully. Yeah. And you just know it's a scam. And the number of people who actually open those is incredible as well, just through a lack of education.
It's massive. So it's a large part of what we do is reselling products for staff training products, videos, regular training is over 90% of cyber attacks are caused by exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
People clicking on things they shouldn't. If you would have clicked on one of those files, you'd have gone to what looks like a Microsoft website, exactly the same as the Microsoft site, other than the URL at the top. They've got so good.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years ago, we'd have received emails with broken English where it was so obvious that it was what it was. Now, we're beginning to see things which are absolutely the same.
Yeah.
Well, the website's absolutely perfect. The multi-factor authentication screen's the same. The scary thing is what people don't realise now is when you put the username and password in and you do your multi-factor on your phone, people think the multi-factor's your safeguard. And the reality is it isn't. The hackers have worked out a way of scraping that multi-factor authentication token at that moment, and then they can log in without the multi-factor from anywhere they want.
Yeah.
And that's the highest. So as far as what we do, for our larger clients, we act more of their IT manager. For some of the bigger organisations, but with a fractional IT director. So that for those kind of companies, we'll sit in board meetings, we'll discuss new strategies that is going to help the business run more efficiently, more profitable by getting the most out of their IT infrastructure. Yeah. Some of those companies will then ask us if we can sit in on meetings when they're selecting new software programs or engaging new providers.
Yeah.
But the primary business is over 100 support tickets a day across our base.
Keeping them working.
Yeah, keeping them working.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, installing a lot of new systems.
Yeah.
Companies come to us on one system and they want to help us migrate them over to a better one.
Yeah.
So we do an awful lot of that.
Yeah. Do they tend to own the infrastructure and you manage it on their behalf, or do you actually own any of do you provide them like a full package of where you own the equipment, they lease it off you as part of their agreement?
We did do more of that a number of years ago. We still do a small part of it, but I have to say as a Microsoft partner, which Clever IT is, we resell a lot of their solutions now. So we still have some clients where we have some co-location, rack space in Manchester Science Park, and we still have some equipment there. And some of our clients who prefer to have their own equipment log into that equipment in that secure environment. What's a growing area is a lot of companies are on Microsoft 365 for their emails, but a big growth is Microsoft Azure, which is similar to Amazon S3. So you'll have a virtual server on Microsoft instead of owning your own. It's very just like Zero, Microsoft 365, and pretty much everything, even the AI that we're all using now, it's all so much per user per month. The server solution's gone like that too. No, we're a big believer, the data's the clients, the system is the clients. I know some MSPs create their own infrastructure and then just rent a space of their own equipment. But no, we think purely from a resilience and security perspective, Microsoft infrastructure, with the amount they've spent on it, is going to be more resilient than anything that we could build.
Yeah. And do you support people who use G Suite and things like that as well, or is it just Microsoft?
I have to say, when I started Clever 15 years ago, I love Google. It predated Microsoft 365. Office 365 as it was then. People used to joke when it came out was like Office 360 because you'd have 5 days of paying a year. It wasn't a great product when it came out. So Google, 15 years ago, did amazing. We were the first Google reseller in Manchester, in the Northwest, actually. When I started the business, one person, I converted a lot of clients over from things like on-premise Exchange servers and old IMAP, you might remember, email systems, to G Suite, which is now called Google Workspace. But I have to say, since COVID, we still maintain, I think, around 20, 30 clients are still on the Google. That did get up to about 60 clients at one point, but very driven by what the client wants. Microsoft has spent a fortune on Microsoft Teams, SharePoint. More companies in the UK use Microsoft than Google. Google's very big in the States, I have to say, still. But aesthetically, Microsoft seems to have spent a lot of money making the system look and feel better. Whereas if you're a Google user, it looks the same as it did pretty much it did 15 years ago. It's not evolved in the same way. I have to say Gemini's, which is Google's AI, is very good. But I'm sure you'll be invited to more Teams meetings than you are Zoom and Google now. The volume is Teams. We'll look after, if a new client came to us and wanted us to look after them with Google, for sure we would do that. But more and more it's been driven down the Microsoft route. People make that decision as well for cost, because Microsoft have smartly, even when people are on Google, a lot of organisations carried on using Word, Excel, Outlook, because the people that they hire are used to using those packages.
Well, which is what we do. We've got G Suite, but we buy the 365 apps. So we've still got Word and Excel, etc.
So what people look at then is if you're paying roughly £10 per user per month for the Office suite, and then you're paying Google £10 a month, you might as well pay Microsoft £11 a month, and you get your email and your Microsoft suite in one. And they've really priced it to make people, to encourage people to do that. Personally, we were on Google for about 7 years, and I personally loved it, still do. Still got another business which is on Google. So it's a very good solution. But out of the two now, I'd say Microsoft probably edge it.
Good stuff. So we've got an idea of who Clever IT are.
Yep.
We need to find out who Ben Griffiths is now. Our listeners are always interested in the stories and the background of the people who become business owners, why they become business owners, and how they've developed as business owners and the business has developed. So give us a bit of a background into you.
Okay.
And how did you get started in your career? What did you start off doing did you go to college?
If you'd have asked me when I was younger, would I own my own business? And people might think, oh, you were always destined to do your own business, but that wasn't my plan. It wasn't something that I always thought I would do, genuinely. I was one of those, we were at a networking meeting together yesterday, and by a guy called Tom, and what resonated was very similar in that respect, where I was like Tom. As soon as I could have a paper round at 11 years old, I did it. Literally, I had to get permission slip because 12 was the number. But if you got a letter off your mum and dad to say you were responsible, at 11 you could do paper round. And I guess my work ethic was always there. So as some kids might have done one paper round, I did 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon after school, 3 paper rounds on a Sunday. I maximised as much as I possibly could. I feel for young people now under 16 that there's not as much opportunity as there was back then. I never did like the milk like some people did and that kind of stuff. But what I did is, which helped me definitely from a personal skill perspective, is around 14, I started working in that newsagent. So instead of just delivering the papers, as you might remember, everyone got papers and there'd be somebody writing the address on what newspaper they were getting. And I did that from about 14.
Sounds like we have very similar starts in life, because I had a paper around morning and night from Monday to Saturday, 6 days a week, from when I'd been 11. I'm a bit older than you. From being 11 to being 16, and when I was 15 I think, when they went away on holiday, I looked after the paper shop for them while they were away. So, similar start.
Yeah, that's it. There you go.
Yeah.
So and you're doing the same. I enjoyed responsibility. I think that's it. I definitely always wanted to be. I guess I was that kid where, is Ben going out? Oh, if he is, then you can go. You know, it was that. I'm the eldest. I've got one brother. He's younger than me. So from my first role was, when my brother was born, you've got to look after him. That's it. So it's always had that ingrained in me. That was how I was brought up. So, high school, when I think now, and obviously I've got two girls, 24 and 16. I've grown up now and I'm growing up fast. They don't have the same level of opportunities. And I think, would I have been happy for either of them at 14, 15, 7 days a week? Before high school, I was riding up on a bike, opening the newsagents up myself at 5 o'clock in the morning, writing the newspapers, serving customers. I'm not sure it was legal. People were buying cigarettes when I wasn't old enough to smoke. So I enjoyed it. And then I'd get to school at 9 o'clock and then I'd still do a paper round after. I always say when I did my first job, what shocked me was my first full-time job paid less than my part-time job did. I was a bit like, that's not great. I've always earned more.
Did you go to college or did you go straight into work?
No, so I did GCSEs up to 16, went to sixth form in West. I went to West Orton High School, great school. Was a decent student, A's and B's at GCSE, and then did sixth form. And sixth form, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed IT. As a youngster as well, I was heavily interested. So I'm 45 now. So when I was 11, 12, 13, there was no websites. There was the early sides of a modem where the landline would be engaged.
When you dialed in, it was that old...
I know, all that kind of stuff. So we had all that, but you communicated. You know, at 13, 14, 15, I was communicating with people all over the world and enjoyed it. I got part of what was called the Microsoft network by then, which predated websites, was hosted chat. And it was... Before the days of everyone being scared, it was very safe, and we did a lot of things for charity, a lot of things paid for by Microsoft, and I remember getting a Microsoft Office CD, which was like £500 through the post for nothing because I'd been part of that initiative. So always heavily involved, and my dream was, I think, I wanted to work for Microsoft or Compaq as it was, Hewlett-Packard. I wanted to be a network engineer. That's how I saw myself. And I saw, if you'd have asked me maybe at 16, that I'd have probably gone to... I don't know, university and done that. I say that, but I guess the personal skills side, I couldn't have been more different. So I had this IT, I was really passionate about that. But at 13, 14, 15, 16, I was heavily into acting, and we're based here at the Wellsprings. I was part of the Octagon Youth Theatre and did a lot there. Bolton Little Theatre performed there as well. So
do you still do anything?
I don't do anything. My youngest is great. I mean, she's heavily into performing. A much better singer than I ever was. She's fantastic at that. So I always think kind of, whereas a little bit different going into IT is not necessarily a huge known for its communicators, if you like, perhaps. So I guess that's where I've been personally a little bit different. But when I didn't get into the National Youth Theatre, which my youngest has, by the way.
Well done.
I thought, if to stick with this IT, I don't think I'm going to make a career out of acting. So I went on to sixth form. I did 1 year there, and towards the end of the first year, couldn't decide where to go on work experience. One of my friends said to me, why don't you go to the computer shop down the road, 4 or 5 people, really nice people, fully enjoyed my week there, work experience, was taken out with engineers. Again, I'm not sure you could do this work experience students now, but I went out in the engineers' cars and went to client sites and fixed, and I thought, this is what I want to do. Loved it. Reminded me of working in news agents, walking into companies, hi, I'm Ben, I've come to fix your computer. Got a lot of pride on suggesting to the engineer quietly how to fix the issue, and a couple of times managed it. Didn't embarrass him, but was really pleased that I was well read. I understood it. But what that highlighted was that in my first year at sixth form, and it has changed in education now, but the content of what I was learning at that time in IT, at A-level IT, was useless. It didn't reflect in, 1998, what was actually happening in the IT industry. They were teaching us things that were 5 years out of date.
I think that, I'm not sure whether they have the same challenge now, but IT and software and tech in general is just moving at an exponential speed, isn't it? So whatever you're learning now, by the time you've finished, it's out of date anyway. So you've got to think about a different way of learning. You've got to learn to be able to keep up with the learning, I think.
I think that's the key. And we've always, at Clever, we've always been really good at making sure the apprenticeships that we do are always Microsoft based, so they're getting right up to date information. So also a few weeks, I remember we used to get AS results. You'd get your grade after 1 year, and a few days before the first year results, the person who owned the IT, those two people that owned the IT company at the time, rang me up and said, there was no such thing. I was in that odd year. YTS had finished. That didn't exist anymore. There was no such thing as apprenticeships. So I was like a junior. There was no government initiative for young people at that time. It disappeared. There was a gap. And he said, look, we're looking for a junior engineer. Would you like to come on board? And I dropped out of sixth form, of which everybody thought it was. There's been a few times in my life where everyone was like, even my parents, are you sure you're destined to go to university? We've been saving up for you to go to university. But I was like, no, IT is my thing. By the time I come out of university, the things that I'll have learned at sixth form and at uni, complete waste of time. So that's what I did. So I had a bit of, concern at that point where I made, potentially, I guess you could make the wrong decision. So what I did was I worked 6 days a week at the IT company, because they work Saturdays as well, because as well as doing business to business, this predated PC world and things like that. So they'd get computer repairs coming locally to this business. And so you'd work Monday to Saturday there. And because I felt like I was a dropout and I hadn't completed my A-levels, I went to Bolton College up the road and said, I've dropped out my A-levels, I want to do something else. But you could do this MVQ and you could do this. And I said, look, I'm very confident. I have to say maybe a little bit more cocky back then. Not proud of it. I'd like to think I'm a bit more reserved now. But and I remember saying to them, I want to do this HNC in business and IT. I've read it. That's more what I'm... And they said, that's like a first year degree level. You've got to have A-levels to be able to do that course. And I said, I've just done 1 year. And that doesn't count. I said, I'll tell you what, put me on the course. If I can't do it after 3 months, you can ask me to... So they let me on. And I did that H&C. So I always think now, what I look for at times is that work ethic, those things. So I worked 6 days a week at the IT company. I did 2 nights a week, 6 till 9 at Bolton College for 2 years. I carried on working on the newsagents for a year on a Saturday morning and a Sunday morning. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I wanted to be the best version of myself. So... at that point, from being kind of 17, 18, I wanted to carry on and go into my dream was work for a big company.
So what was the business called that you went working for?
There's a company called AWK, who were based in West Horton.
Are they still around?
They're still around.
Wow.
A guy called Dave Kay owns it solely now. I still keep in touch with him. They're a very good company. Very much have that, we don't step on each other's toes. Big believer of there's enough business to go around for everybody. Dave, if you're listening to this, one day you'll retire and I hope to do a deal with him at some point in the future. They do things right. And I think what I would say is that I learned a lot there. I learned how to run a bit, not necessarily run a business, but how to look after the customer correctly. They were good at what they do and continue to be very good at what they do. So I worked there, but the dream was, like I said, Microsoft Compact, HP, go to Manchester. And then the bit that changed me was, at 19, again, no PC world, an architect brought in a A3 plotter, a guy called Tony. I remember Tony Alexander, and he was an architect in Prestwich. And I were one of the guys there went, fix this plotter. And as the architect was leaving, he said, just part of a networking thing that's just started in Bolton called BNI. And I wondered if you'd like to come along. And Wayne said he would on the Friday morning. And then he went, he said, that's 6 o'clock in the morning. He said, you can do that.
There's only one 6 o'clock in my day.
Yeah, exactly. I then, for 2 years, from 19 to 21, for AWK, did BNI. But what that did was it opened me up to, for those who don't know, BNI is well known. It's been going since 1985 in the US, and there's chapters all over the world. But and up until last week, I was still a member and been a member for over 25 years. So it's on the premise of I give you business, you want to give me business. And it's not for everybody. For some people, it's a bit Americanized. For me, it's been very good for me. I've got lots of business from it. I guess it fits my ethos. I'm very good at, even outside of BNI, I like to connect our clients together.
Yeah, and I guess it helped to develop you from a communication skills viewpoint, learning about other businesses, learning about how you could interact with other businesses.
Yeah, when I think 1920 and having one-to-ones, as they call them, and coffees and chats with people who are much older than me, who own their own businesses. Most of them were business owners in the 40s, architects, solicitors, and chatting to them about financial advisors, learning about how they started the business. And I learned very early on, just ask questions and listen. And that's what I did. And so I thoroughly enjoyed those 2 years. And then I got an opportunity. One of the people in the group had an office equipment company, a Bolton-based company called Boss Office. A guy called Tim Guest, who I think
I know Tim Guest, yeah.
Good guy. Still work with Tim now. And I worked at Boss for 9.5 years after that. But because AWK had the BNI seat in Bolton, and there was only one chapter in Bolton at the time, they stayed in the seat. I went to Boss, and they did office equipment, stationery, furniture. They just started doing print. I don't know, maybe 15 people at the time. And
I used to work for one of their competitors.
I think we talked about
that before.
Yeah,
Bennett Limited.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
so I know about
so
that.
that's how I knew Boss initially.
Yeah. So good. And Bolton was different. So and IT was different. So having an IT division in Boss Office in 2001 was a really good decision by Tim, because it fitted. IT in 2001 was still a product, as in selling a PC, laptop, screen.
Yeah.
There was margin in the product. There certainly wasn't cybercrime as such. There maybe you had to put a virus checker on, but it wasn't the same.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It predated smartphones. It predated, not everybody had. When I was going into businesses in 2001, 2002, there was a lot of companies that didn't have email on every computer. The whole organisation would have one email address. You'd have 50 staff, and the owner would have email on their computer.
So those days, it was really just a commodity buy. It was a bolt-on to the office supplies business.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Do you want to buy a computer? Do you want to buy a printer?
Yeah. And that's what I did. So I approached their existing customers and said, do you want to buy a computer? And that's how it scaled. And it did very well. I think just under 200,000 sales in year one on my own. It was good. Tim really looked after me, good mentor, learnt a lot from him, very successful local entrepreneur, now runs 2 very successful businesses in the north. At 22, he made me a director of the company. I remember getting a brand new Mercedes. I couldn't believe it. So that dream I definitely was right in that respect, because when my friends were coming out of university, I was in a good spot.
You already had a good career.
Yeah, I had a good career. I definitely didn't regret it, but it was through hard work and it was good. So around 2006, the business was starting to scale at Boss, and there was an opportunity, as Tim was diversifying, for me to become MD, which at 26 was, again, great experience. So suddenly then we scaled it up to about, 30 plus people. But what that did do, because we were doing furniture, stationery, IT, photocopiers and office equipment, at that point for those 4 years, the IT didn't really scale.
Yeah.
It gave me great experience.
Yeah. Was that because your focus had just been taken off one thing and you were looking more
because suddenly
general?
I was dealing with HR issues or building deliveries.
And was there somebody else at that point focused on IT? Was it still part of your job, really?
In part my remit from a sales perspective. And I think that was the problem, was I was MD of that and doing the sales of that, and it didn't. And what I noticed maybe around 2008, 2009 is we were suddenly seeing the early stages of change. Yeah. The margin had gone, all those companies I mentioned, like your PC Worlds, your Dells and everything else, had become massive. People were starting buying laptops and they weren't like £5,000 and the batteries did last longer than 30 minutes. So it changed a massive amount. Yeah. And then suddenly I felt a little bit like, I don't think it really fits into this model anymore. I won't tell you exactly because it'll take much longer how it exactly transpired, but in eventually, let's say, it's because it's an easier way of explaining it, eventually I'd set what became Clever. Yeah. And maybe a year and a half after I left Boss, me and Tim did a deal. I bought the contracts of the customers I'd got, of which I have to say my solicitor at the time said to me, you know all these customers, why do you have to do this? And I said, it's the right thing to do. I'm all about long-term relationships. Tim had been very good to me over the years. I felt like it was the right thing to do. And it definitely was, because like I say, I know Clever IT now does their IT for two of his businesses. So you don't,
never burn your bridges.
No, don't burn your bridges and don't think short term. No. Think of the bigger picture. So no, I enjoyed my time at Boss, but I think I got to just about 28, 29. I started thinking it was 30 when I started Clever. And it just started to feel like Tim wasn't that much older than me. Do you know what I mean? There was this opportunity that one day maybe I'd buy the business off him more. But as it was changing, I suddenly thought, will I ever want to buy a print business or a
furniture business?
Probably not, because actually I missed the IT. I enjoyed being MD. It gave me good experience, but I missed the IT. Yeah. So the truth is, I feared. Whereas some people don't do things, is you fear and love, isn't it? And the fear was leaving a very decent paid job with a company car, and I'd been there a long time and was well thought of, to go out on my own. And my wife was just retraining to be a nurse at the time. I had two very young children.
The ideal time to start your own business.
Nursery fees and all that kind of stuff. So for a very short period of time, I left to set up the IT division within a training company, an existing training company that had been trading a number of years, turnover just under $1 million. Saying I was coming on board as a third shareholder of the existing business to set up. And it felt like it fitted an IT within that at that time, the way IT was changing and the training element as well, it fitted quite well.
So you were able to draw a salary?
Still. Yeah, so I got a small salary.
So a bit of safety.
That was the idea. So it was the safety net. And then about 6 weeks after that, they lost a large government contract, which was very unfortunate. I always remember this because I was coming back from a networking event, possibly BNI or Business Network or something similar. Karen, I've done a plug for Karen Thames there.
Karen gets a plug on almost every podcast.
Karen's fantastic. Business Network's amazing. That's been a fantastic networking thing for me. And Karen's lovely and makes the meetings for sure. Yeah, They lost a government contract. I was on the way back from an event. I got a phone call saying that the company was going into administration. 6 weeks after I'd left Boss. Yeah. If I'm honest, around my wife, she was very upset, worried. We'd already had to put things like nursery fees on credit cards and things like that because things weren't going very well at said organisation. And I then was at that kind of, I remember my mum and dad being a little bit like, go back to Boss. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, no, the hardest thing was leaving Boss. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you want to move forward. You want to move forward.
I left there for a reason. If I'd have gone back, it wouldn't have been the same. Yeah. So I went to the meeting with the administrator, and I always remember it being a bit of a blur. Listening, I was very lucky. I have to say, I was very lucky. And the two guys that I'd gone into business with were really kind because we had signed a shareholders agreement, but we hadn't filed the changes with Companies House. I could have been liable, and I wasn't. So I didn't get a black mark. I was very lucky. Actually, the director of Companies House, because it was so close. Yeah. So I'm always very thankful for that. So it was good in that respect. But I wasn't really listening during this administrator appointment with this accountant who seemed like a really nice guy. And then I drove away from that meeting and just thought to myself, I need an investor because I don't have the money to set up a business on my own. So I need to start thinking of doing a business plan, talking to business venture capitalist or business angel or something. The thing is, you've not got a lot behind you at that stage. So I thought, I'll shortlist 3 people. This is 2 hours after talking to my wife and telling them I'm going to administration. I'm driving away from Darwin and thought I'd selected the 3 people in my head who I was going to ring. I rang the first guy And I said, "Hi, Dave, how are you doing?" And he says, "How's the new venture going?" And I said, "Not so good, Dave." And he's like, "Oh, right." And I explained what had happened. He said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "I'm going to set up an IT support company. I'm going to start with myself and I'm going to scale it." I said, "But before I go either on Dragon's Den or Business Ventures or whatever I do, I'm going to contact a few people that I know and ask them if they want to invest in a startup business. They know me. They've seen what my track record, people who know my track record and what I can achieve, whether they'd be interested in putting some money in for a share of the business that isn't even registered yet." And he said, "What are you looking for?" And I thought, this is quicker than I expected.
Had you got a figure in your head?
Not really at that point. Do you know what I mean?
You just expected them to say no.
Yeah, but I always think, I say this to people, I think you're at your best when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
I like that. And I said, what we're looking for, Dave, because we've done a business plan, obviously, is
2 hours.
I know. So we're looking for £50,000 for 20% of the business, because that's what they always said on Dragon's Den, didn't they? And he said, "All right then." Seriously. So it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So I ran my wife back, Rochelle, and said, "How did the meeting go?" Said, "Oh, we're setting the business up, we're going in. I've got an investor, by the way. We've got this, and is it really going to happen?" But he did. So look, we started with that investment, and I remember thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. This is going to last ages. And obviously it helped.
Yeah.
If you'd have talked to me, that was like August 2011. And by December 2011, even though I was working 7 days a week, we were probably £25,000 down.
Yeah. You've got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet as a business pretty quickly.
Yeah, of course you do. There were some setup costs, obviously. We need to rent a bit of space somewhere. And I bought a second-hand laptop, which I never wanted to take out in front of clients because it was a bit embarrassing being an IT person. I had a strategy where I would go and see clients during the week, and then I'd install in the evenings and weekends so that I could continue to support the customers that I'd signed up for. I rented my first office off my accountant, who's still my accountant now. That was part of my pitch. I'm looking for a desk somewhere near you. We've got a spare desk, so that worked out well for the first few years. That was good. And but in that December, I remember saying to my wife, if things don't change, I'm going to have to start looking for a job in the new year, because we got £15,000 on a personal credit card. Of that £50,000, we spent 25 of it already. And there has to be a point when that starts turning, when it's not doing at this stage. But we just, bit of perseverance. I remember January 2012, winning a couple of clients who are still clients now. And I always think back, there was one in particular, and I think, wow, they had 60 computers. And to look at one person, I remember saying at the time, look, as soon as I can afford to, we're going to hire a second person, which we did in May 2012. But the difference, that swing between negative 25,000 by May 2012 was a positive 40.
Wow.
It was, Paul, honestly, it was 7 days a week. I was ill with it. I was like, I'd get a cough and a cold and I just couldn't shift it.
But you could start legitimately paying yourself.
I was 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, installing equipment. I remember installing a server and 7 computers myself. And I remember bringing a big plastic bag so I could put all the tissues in and take them home because I didn't want them to know that I was like spreading this awful like virus around their office for the entire weekend. But we as soon as when it kind of changed, by the time we got to May 2012, Peter came on board, who is our technical director, who's fantastic, and it was a massive leap of faith for him that I've always and continue to be very thankful for. He had a very young child at the time as well, so for him to make a leap like that into a business that hadn't filed the first year account. But I did say to him at the time, look, we've got enough money in the bank now to pay your wage, I've just got to worry about mine. But we went on, I think we became second in Startup Business of the Year at the Bolton Business Awards. That year we were beaten by a company called Hilton Smythe, and we do their IT support now. So I remember going to the appointment to see them and saying, do you know that, but you beat us that year. So no, it took time. When people talk to me now, Clever IT as it stands now, we're 22 staff. We're on target to do 3 million sales this year. It's scaled, but it took 15 years. It hasn't happened overnight. It's still hard work now. We still have moments. It was the England match, sadly, the other night, and didn't go the way any of us wanted it. But I had a client who rang me during the first half, which turned out not to be that urgent. Somebody had locked themselves out of a laptop.
Yeah.
And of course, because it's the England match, I didn't want to ask any of my team, so I dealt with it myself. I did manage to reset somebody's password who'd locked themselves out of the laptop. Haven't done that for quite some time. It took me way longer than it should have, I have to say, because you can imagine we have so many layers of security now just to get to that. But yeah, it's a journey. And I guess I've had to evolve over time. Yeah. I've not done the tech for, 8 years, perhaps, day to day. Certainly for the first 7 years, I was still actively installing computers. Then maybe as we grew, moved on to just doing server implementations, then maybe just managing server implementations. But certainly for the last few years, I don't get involved with the technical side. We've got a fantastic team. We've got P2, still our technical director.
Was that a conscious decision to pull back from being on the tools, or did it just you employed somebody and they were saying, Ben, just leave it, let's get on?
I think I realised, and it still has its challenges, but I think I realised that personally I'd never have a life if I carried on.
If you didn't?
Yeah.
And possibly not a wife either.
No, that's it. Yeah, you want, everyone's going for like the work-life balance.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to a coach, Andrew, who I still work with, and he said to me I'd got some funding for some, and anyway, cut long story short, he said, why do you do this? And I said, I want to spend more time with my family and have nice holidays and all this. And he said, how's that going for you? And that was the moment. He says, if you don't delegate, I was the worst. Oh man, if you'd have met me, Paul, 5 years in at Clever, I was blind carbon copied in on every support ticket I was logging the help desk. It was terrible. So I don't mind admitting it. I'm a much better leader now than I was.
I think that there's two big mindset challenges for most business owners when they begin to grow the businesses, because they want to grow and they want to grow for a reason. They've probably not identified it, and nobody's asked them that question, because it's a question I ask our clients when we come on board. But it's, why should I pay somebody else to do it when I can do it myself? And nobody can do it better than I can.
Yeah.
And the two big challenges, mindset challenges for business owners to get over if they really do want to truly grow and scale their businesses.
Yeah. It's huge. You are totally right.
Yeah.
Because, and I definitely was in that camp. And even now, everyone calls it a different thing, don't they? You'll know the £10 jobs, the £100 jobs, the £1,000 jobs, the £10,000 jobs, really a Clever IT at the size it's at now. I should just be doing the £10,000 jobs. And occasionally I'll catch myself doing a £100 one.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be doing it. Yeah. And it's not that I can't do it, but it's just not the best use of my time. And truthfully, and this is the thing that a lot of business owners aim for, I do genuinely employ a lot of people who are much better at things than I am. And that's exactly as it should be.
Yeah.
Our head of operations, Caroline's fantastic, lots of experience, decades of experience in much bigger companies. Clever has improved our processes, has helped us scale in that respect. We've got Graham, who's our client strategy director, who's been with us 13 years, and he looks after our clients and projects and our fractional IT director work.
First met Graham. Is Graham Rolling? I first met Graham when I was a member of BNI in Bolton.
There you go.
So,
and he was president at one point, wasn't he?
He was. I think I was a member in 2018, initially in the Bolton one. Yeah. So what's in the future for Clever IT then? When you look forwards, what are the longer term goals for the business?
Okay, so we find ourselves, it's now larger than we anticipated, but it is part of the plan now. If we'd have met 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, my target was to keep a small business, carry on working in it. But what's changed in the sector is the two things really. Microsoft have made it quite difficult for small IT companies. It's tough. You have to spend a lot of money to be Microsoft partner now every year, keep on top with all the exams, and all the security that you need. We spend thousands, and probably over £10,000 a month just on data security and IT help desk software and everything else that goes with it. Yeah. It's an enormous amount. So we knew we could see that coming, and we thought we need to scale it. That was one reason to do it. And then the other is I was lucky enough to get accepted to Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Programme, which I did in 2023. Fantastic programme. Loved it. Did it for 3 months. Graduated in January 24. Part of that is a 5-year business growth plan, which we're working towards. And as far as what you said, as what's the plan, it's the next stage of our growth, we're 2 years in, is to get us to 5 million sales. So we've got 3 more years to do that.
Yeah.
And as the why, I'm 45, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. There is one of the reasons we've grown is because some small IT companies predominantly are sold out because of everything I just said. Other ones our size have sold out as well, because the EBITDA multiples are quite good, but they tend to be a bit older than me.
Yeah.
And the there's a few big companies nationally, quite a few in Manchester.
Yeah.
And what I tend to find is the service just isn't as good. So our plan is to scale, but the challenge is to continue to deliver the same level of service to our clients and new clients in the same way. So what our clients like is our flexibility. If you were working with an IT company with 300 engineers, most of them, just the account manager, that you'll have 5 account managers a year. Most of them will be in their early 20s. Not there's anything wrong with people in their 20s, but they don't tend to stick around.
Yeah.
You're a number. You feel like a number. So in 20 plus people at Clever, me, Peter, Graham, Carolyn, still available. If you need to, mobile phone call.
Yeah.
And you're still getting that even though we've scaled.
Yeah.
But they don't ring me if their Outlook's crashed.
Yeah.
That stopped. It took me years. Yeah. 7, 8 years ago, if I'd have done something like this, I wouldn't have, because I'd have never had the time. That's what I said. But I realised I'd have had 25 phone calls in an hour. And that isn't the case anymore.
You'd have been scared to phone off.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Clever runs very well now. From a technical, we still have things in place where I would want to know if during this catch up, a client had a serious problem, they were completely down, or there was a big cyber event, I would know about it as soon as I come out of this meeting. I still want to, not because I fix it, but because I want to ring the client and provide reassurance. Yeah. I don't do that when there's small issues. So we still work with startup businesses. We would love the opportunity to, if some of those smaller MSPs were looking to retire, we'd love to talk to them. That'd be great.
Have you made any acquisitions thus
We've
far?
tried. We've got close 3 times.
Yeah.
It's not happened yet. It seems to be, again, you'll have more experience in this than me, Paul. It seems to be that, and I've seen this numerous times, a business will be quite profitable, and then what the owner does is they get comfortable, the mortgage is paid for, and they take the foot off the gas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then it just over a 10-year period, when they could have made some good money out of selling the business, it just dwindles. And all they're doing is year on year, because tend to have really good people who work with them, and they want to keep giving them pay rises. And because they really don't need it, because it's a lifestyle business, the money they take out of the business just keeps going down and down. Now, what I'd love genuinely is, I think some of those people between, 57, 58 and 68, people are working longer now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. They could work at Clever as a consultant, whether that's a full or a part-time basis for a time. We could look after their people, because the negative is, unfortunately, and I'm sure not everyone's the same, but I've seen it too many times, that a lot of these big companies, they just want the contracts.
Yeah.
So they buy the company, the owner might get a little bit more money, but they'll
strip out the people.
They'll strip out the people.
Incorporate the contracts
they'll tell
into
the
their
people,
business.
look, if you want to work for us, you need to drive to the centre of Manchester every day. I've got really good people who have been really loyal to us, who our office has good train links, good bus links, who I know would not want to go to the centre of Manchester every day. So hopefully I'll achieve it. I would love Clever to scale where it does run, just like it runs well now technically, the longer term is for it to run more efficiently, entirely without my input. Yeah. I don't mind still being around, making calls, seeing our key customers. That has begun. This year we've brought in an account manager, Tessa, who started. She's just took over our BNI seat. She's getting more involved in the business network as well. We've got Holly, who started as finance admin. I was still doing a lot of that, way too much than I need to. So it's freeing my time up to do the thing that the business needs me to do. Yeah. And really now it's me engaging with our key departments, sales, finance, operations, projects. Yeah. And our internal IT, that's become a thing in its own right.
So wearing your CEO's hat rather than wearing your directors or your sales director's hat.
It's a good shout. So I've never called myself a CEO yet. Yeah. Because I think you should only call yourself a CEO when you act like one.
Yeah.
And at the moment, as MD and I guess sales director, I'm still actively in those roles. The long-term aim, of course, is to, as we scale, whether that's at 4 or 5 million, is potentially to bring in a managing director. Ideally, that person would have experience in IT to scale it further. I've never scaled a business from 5 to 10 million. I'd rather bring in him or her who's worked in the sector before, would be given an incentive to say, come on board now, we're at 5 million, let's take us to 10. And if you take us to 10, this is what it'll look like for you. So, no, we're at 3 now. It's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the exact time that happens. Yeah. In the here and now, there's ups and downs in every business. Yeah. We've got some customers doing very well and some customers not so well, sadly. It's, we were chatting briefly before. It's the world has its challenges at the moment.
The economy goes in cycles.
Yeah, of course it does. And we're in a bit of a cycle. The last few months, I think, have been tough for some people with not knowing what's going to happen with the Prime Minister. And that's just about to change on Monday, so let's see.
Yeah, we'll see. So what would you say, in terms of when you look at your business now, what would you say are the biggest challenges for you on a regular basis with your business?
That's a good question. Challenges. Finding good people has always been hard. We've got great people. We would love to hire. We're constantly hiring more talent. We are a bit shocked sometimes by people when we get people coming for interview. And we had somebody come for an interview a few weeks ago. I didn't do the interview. And during the interview, they said, "This sounds quite hard work. I was looking for something easy." That in a job interview.
Probably not the right company.
Yeah, so we're quite selective. So what we try to do is, and it's hard because stereotypically, I've worked with technical people the whole of my career. Techies, a lot of techies, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, would prefer to talk to a computer than a person. Yeah. A lot of them, not all of them.
And normally at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than 2 o'clock
and
in the
they're
afternoon.
very good. Yeah. And I have employed previously and employ now engineers who are brilliant engineers and technically brilliant, but they sometimes struggle to explain
the conversation.
To that. But what we do is we're mindful of the fact we're not internal IT, so we do have to talk to our customers, converse, and so we work really hard. A lot of the time, our core values are caring, clever, and quality. And the caring side isn't necessarily a core value that you'd normally associate with an IT support company. But we're very big on it. If we care for our people look after our customers. If we do that well, it'll be fine. So when we're hiring, we don't always hire the most technical. We look for the person because we cannot teach somebody to be a good person. If they're a caring, nice person, and I say this to people, our team, when we're interviewing, we're looking for a nice person who is a caring person. If we can get that, we'll teach them the tech. Yeah. Occasionally we get it wrong because people say the right thing during an interview. But we've had such amazing results with people who've come in who have worked in retail and never worked in IT, a young person, we've trained them up on the tech because during the interview, they're just so good at customer service. And we think if they're interested in IT, we'll teach them the tech. So, that's for the last 2 years, because we've scaled, 25%, we've grown 25% 2 years consecutively. We've obviously hired more people. Yeah. And that's been been pretty hard.
I think when people get to your stage, I talk to a lot of business owners, obviously, and in order for them to carry on growing, number one, they've got to have a constant recruitment campaign going. They've got to be constantly recruiting and looking for good people. And they've always, as you do, and it's a great lesson to have learned, is to hire on attitude and values rather than hiring on skills as the first priority. Yeah. There are obviously some skills or qualifications that are yes, no. Yeah. No.
If you're hiring an experienced project engineer who's going to be managing a project of £20,000 to £50,000, they've got to know. Yeah, they've got to understand the job.
And that's the challenge. It's that word experience, because experience doesn't mean good. No. And in our old industry that we used to work in, I used to see a lot of furniture salespeople, CVs passing across my desk. Yeah. And they'd read like a who's who of the furniture sector with some of the best names in the furniture sector. Yeah. But when you read through them, there was only ever 18 months here, 2.5 years there, 2 years there. And they'd stay just long enough to leave before they got found out or when they got found out. And they just got this little list of customers they'd take with them. And when they ran out of them, they couldn't find new customers. And some of them had a pretty shitty attitude as well. And I always say to people, what would you rather have? Would you rather have somebody with 10 years experience and a great CV, but who's got a shitty attitude and is a hard work to work with?
You don't want that.
Or do you want somebody who maybe is inexperienced, who probably hasn't got all the skills that you need, but will go the extra mile, who when they turn up is saying, I want to learn about this, please teach me about this, because I want to do that, but I want to learn. Yeah. So you'd much rather have that person.
The attitude's key.
Yeah.
The other challenge we have that we never had 10, 15 years ago, two things on that. One is, I'd say, I never wanted to hire salespeople of any kind. So that was one of the reasons I never wanted to grow the business, because I was always going to do it myself. But I think we've got to this size and we've had nobody else in sales. No account manager, nothing. Yeah. The amount of times we have meetings with suppliers and they say, you can deliver this to your sales team. I think you're misunderstanding. I am the sales team. But it needs more people, and we're scaling it in that respect. But the second thing is, historically, when me and you were starting in business, we're not necessarily in a business when we started, when we were 18, 19, 20, more often than not, people stayed in their lane a lot more.
Yeah.
If you went to university and you were a lawyer, you wouldn't dream 3 years later of retraining to be a personal trainer. Yeah. But young people are doing that now. And that is the other, when I mention recruitment, we do lots of nice things at Clever. We have incentives, we have, medical cash plans. We've got things like we buy everyone, last Friday of every month, we buy everyone lunch, they vote on. We've had Five Guys, KFC. I try to encourage healthy eating, but it's what we want.
Every now and again.
Once a month to do that. But we had one lad who, fantastic engineer, started with us at 16. What a great interview, full suit, very quiet at first. Great success story, great apprenticeship, did the second apprenticeship to the advanced level, got to about 21, was just about to be promoted to a senior engineer on a very good salary. He was a fast track kid. And he just came in one day and said, I've decided to retrain to be a HGV lorry driver forever. It's what he wanted to do. It's his dream. And we're waiting for the day when one of the engineers wants to be a firefighter or something. There's nothing wrong with that. But I was at my youngest daughter's high school recently, and there was an inspirational speaker, I can't remember what, ex-rugby player, I think. He's doing the rounds. And he was talking. It might be, yeah. And he actually said, you will most likely have 3 full different careers to these room of 16-year-olds in your career. 3 different careers, not so. And you know what? It's nice, because I think sometimes when we were younger, we'd be pushed into something. I've always said this: your child's good at science, and you get A stars, and he or she can be a doctor because you're good at science. And then there's so many kids who must get pushed into that. They end up in Oxbridge, they become a doctor, and they're so unhappy for their whole careers. And you talk to them, it's so many unhappy doctors.
And I think it's very rare. If I think back to when I was at school, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. And I left school, I did all right. I probably didn't work as hard as I could have done. I still walked out with 8 O-levels because I was quite bright. Yeah. And I ended up going to college in Accrington, and they put me onto a boys' course with boys' subjects, like a tech qualification. And I got accepted to do a degree in electrical and electronic engineering down in Wales. And I went, actually, no, I'm bored with learning, I'll go and get a job. Yeah. My first job was on the M65 when it was being built. It shows how long ago it was. And then I ended up at the Lancashire Evening Telegraph in Blackburn. And it's only by chance that I ended up in sales. Yeah. And if somebody had said to me when I was at college, you're going to be a salesperson, I'd have laughed. Because I was so quiet and shy. I wouldn't say boo to a goose until I figured out that sales is really just about talking to people. And then a few little skills and frameworks and stuff that you need in between.
I think that's part of it. Like, I enjoyed computers.
Yeah.
I suppose maybe that's where it's changed. I enjoyed computers, but what did I actually enjoy? It was like this new way of communicating. The acting was communication, wasn't it? And I've reflected on this as I've got older. And really not. I didn't, a lot of techies, not all, they then go into gaming, don't they? And other things that they like doing, and they're heavily into social media, or lots of people now play games with headsets and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I didn't do that. As soon as I was old enough, or maybe not quite old enough to go into a pub, I was in the pub communicating and enjoying being around people. So IT was my conduit to it. I've ended up running an IT business.
Yeah.
It could have been something else. In reality, I enjoy the IT. Will I always, if I had time, would I diversify into other businesses potentially? Yeah, I think that's part of the plan in the long term.
I haven't got experience of this because I haven't got children, but I should imagine for people who've got children who are growing up, your girls ages 16, 24, you won't be saying to them, just pick a lane and you've got to stick to it for your entire life. You'll be saying to them, think about what you enjoy, think about what you love, and do what you love.
That honestly is the biggest. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
It is because I've seen so many people go down into careers because they think that's what the mum and dad.
Yeah.
Like literally neither of our girls, our eldest, Lydia, did go to university because she wanted to. She got a really good psychology degree. She's now doing a master's apprenticeship with psychology, loves the job, absolutely in the lane she did. But she's not been pushed into it.
No.
She's done it because it was her choice.
Yeah.
And I said to both of them, if you got to 18, you want to go and do an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
If you want to go and work in retail, if that's what makes you happy, you'll be successful at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is not everybody knows, you know, you get to that stage, you might enjoy doing a few different things, but you're not quite sure. Yeah. Try out lots of different things until you find something that you do love doing and that you are particularly, you've got a natural inclination to, and go off and do that.
It's a long time
to
be doing a job you don't enjoy doing.
Of course it is.
And you do talk to people and you think, they absolutely hate going to work every day. And I just think, you know, and I would like to think, or the feedback I get, people at Clever enjoy doing what they do.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like being part of the team.
Yeah. And so we encourage, in the business that I used to be involved in, we used to encourage our employees to try new things and try different things. My goal was always to help them to be the best version of themselves that they could be and to help them to achieve whatever their goals was. And if that happened to be something outside of our business, then while they were working for me, I'd give them all the opportunities I could to learn what they needed to do to be able to do to enable them to do what they wanted to do. Because I knew that while they were with me, they'd give me 150% while they were there, because they could see that I was trying to help them to achieve whatever their goals were. And eventually, if they did leave to go off and try something else, they'd go with my wholehearted support.
That's what you want to do. It sounds like you get pride, very similar to myself, in developing people and giving people the opportunity. And that's when people start, we say, look, there's lots of opportunity here.
Yeah.
We're a fast-growing business. We've had so much success. We've got Matthew at the moment, who started as an apprenticeship. You know, he's helping run projects. He's buying all laptops and desktops for clients, quoting clients, organising the delivery as well as implementing some of it. He's 22. He's doing great. He's got a company car, good salary. You know, went to West Norton High School, good start. And then we had one, Ethan, did fantastic. Did an apprenticeship at Clever, and our support team leader, Zach, before working for us, did a stint for a year in the Antarctic for the Bolton British Antarctic team. Oh, wow. Yeah, doing IT support there. And obviously, Ethan, when he was 16, heard this story a few years ago. I thought, wow, that's amazing. We supported him, got him through his apprenticeship, worked at Clever, and he applied and got in, and he's there now.
Brilliant.
You know, so I always say that people really focus on retain your staff, keep them as long as you can. No, like if they fancy doing something else, we're just part of their journey. They help us along the way, especially if you're going to employ young people. If you're going to employ a 16 to 18-year-old and you seriously think they're going to be with you until they're 38, it's just
a different world.
It's a different world.
It's a different world.
The retention, the average retention in IT support at the moment across any age is 2.8 years. We're averaging above that, which is good. But we're not doing anything wrong if people move. The staff turnover is quite high because people have a lot of choices. They can work internal IT, they can completely diversify. But of course, what we'd like to do is, we've got one guy, Paul, who was with us from university, was with us 6, 7, maybe 8 years. You'll have to forgive me, Paul, for forgetting that. And then he'd hit a point a few years ago where there was nowhere for him to go. Yeah. He'd met Mrs. Wonderful, who he's now about to marry, Lisa, and he had nowhere to go. There was no promotion. And he was gutted when he left. He went working at a council. He got a really good job as a network officer at Chorley Council. Yeah. Worked there for about 2 years or so. Got some fantastic experience. And in that time, Clever grew. We kept in touch, and he's come back. And because Clever is in a position now to give him more opportunity. Yeah. So I always think sometimes it's potentially people could leave and
It's happened to us as well.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just conscious of time.
Yep.
I feel like we could probably talk all afternoon.
Yeah, well, you've known me a while, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm a chatty guy.
So there's a couple of questions that we talked about before we came on air. And the first one is, if you had some advice for somebody who was thinking about going into business now, or you could offer your younger self some advice, but before you started your own business, what do you think the best piece of advice you could have to offer somebody?
I couldn't do what I'm about to suggest doing. I've had time to think about this. But obviously, read a lot of books. I would say before running my own business, I didn't read lots of material. Do that. The world, YouTube, podcasts, books, is full of very useful information. In the last 10 years, I have read so many books. And if the opportunity prevails itself, create a side hustle. So instead of putting yourself under the pressure like I did, I would have struggled to do that because Tim was really great with me. I couldn't have done that. It just wouldn't stick with my morals.
Yeah.
However, if you're working for a big company and what you're thinking about setting up isn't competing with the company that you're working at now, start doing it on the side. Do it at the weekends, build it. And then when you do build it, and this is one thing we did talk about off air, is as your business scales, prepare yourself for horrible things that happen in the world like COVID and other things, financial crises and stuff. So one thing we've always done at Clever is when we've had every year, we don't spend every penny that we make. We a financially sound business where you put money to one side because you never know what's around the corner. Yeah. And if the economy does take a dip, and unfortunately sometimes it does, historically it always has when you look at it over a 50-year period, you're prepared for it. You've got some skin on the bone, so to speak. So they're the two. I think a lot of new business people go in, they have a bit of success in the first year, they spend all the money and then they lose the biggest customer or something awful happens or they get an unexpected bill that they're not experiencing and that takes them down.
That unexpected tax bill.
Well, I was going to say, we mentioned that earlier. For everyone's listening, there's no such thing as an unexpected tax bill.
Absolutely not.
If you've got a good accountant, you should know exactly what tax you're paying.
And you're right, we don't know what's around the corner. I think it was Mike Tyson who said most people have a plan until they get smacked in the face.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so have a plan for when you get smacked in the face and you've got more chance of surviving.
Of course
then.
it is. We've had some shockers. Yeah. Recently, this year, we've had a client that's gone out of business, sadly. We're going to carry on paying their Microsoft licenses till next February at a cost of £11,000. That's part of running a business. And it's not nice and it's a bit of a kick, but that's part of running a business. Yeah. It happens. So you've got to prepare yourself for those things, for the car breaking down, for this, that and the other. Yeah.
And in terms of development, the other piece of advice I always give to people, and you were right, read books. And when people go into business, it's probably because they're really good at doing something themselves. Yeah. The skill of running a business is completely different to the skill of being great at IT or being great at customer relationships. Yeah. So there's a different set of skills that they need to learn to be able to run a business. So grow yourself around those kind of business skills as well. I think is really important.
I agree. I thought being MD at Boss would prepare me for, and I wasn't. Yeah. What it doesn't prepare you for is the safety net, not having a salary, to complete responsibility, and that doesn't change. No. You know, everyone would scale it. Suddenly now you've got 20 odd people's livelihoods, families. I do think about that. Yeah. And when there's tough times, I do lie in bed at 9:30, 10. I go to bed early. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning.
That's why you're looking so youthful, Ben.
I'm on those. The other thing is look after yourself. I worked that out very late. Yeah. It took its toll running a business up until about my late 30s. Yeah. I did all the wrong things and worked too many hours and ate the wrong things and drank too much and things like that.
Yeah. Story of my life.
Yeah, as soon as I lock that in, regular exercises. Since taking, if you had a graph of sales and profitability of Clever IT over its 15 years, you'd be able to pick out the month and year of when I started regular exercising and stopped drinking alcohol, because our sales and profitability went up after that significantly. Yeah. Just more present.
If you talk to any of my clients, they would say that one of the things that I say to them very early in our relationship is you've got to look after yourself before you look after your business. Yeah. Yeah. Especially for those people who are still owner-operators, where the business revolves around them, because if they stop working, the business stops working. Yeah. So it's so important.
Yeah, it is. You've got to be that. Yeah. As far as books go, you mentioned earlier about books. Yeah. David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, it's on the shelf.
It's on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
There's too many now for me to pick it out straight away.
And the one nobody's heard of is Trevor Blake, 3 Simple Steps.
Yeah, which I hadn't read,
It's
so that's going to be on my
fantastic.
list.
Great book.
Brilliant.
Had a good journey story.
So just to finish then, how do people get in touch with you and how do people get in touch with Clever IT?
Okay, so we're clever-it.com.
Yep.
So I'd urge you to go to the About Us. There's a nice video there, which was done by a company called Video Strategy Company. A guy called Ash. Have a look at video. It gives you an idea of how we work with our clients.
Great.
And I would say it's a nice place to start. And on there's obviously our contact number.
Yeah.
I won't give my mobile number out on the
No,
podcast.
that's fine.
But,
Are you active on LinkedIn?
Yeah, big on LinkedIn. I need to do more. Not as
Need to do
active,
more.
not as active as I should be.
Okay, brilliant. Ben, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.